Sanctuary has always been trapped amid the eternal conflict. A war between angels and demons.
Welcome back to the channel. My name's Mageborn and I review games after fully completing them. That can include the campaign, achievements, any bosses and other endgame activities, as well as trying every single class. I complete as much of the game as possible to set me apart from other reviewers, and in this video I'll be taking a look at Diablo 4, and I currently have around 200 hours spent in the game. Diablo 4 is set 50 years after Diablo 3. You don't need to know any of the previous lore from the other games to enjoy Diablo 4, but if you do want a little more information, I advise watching the YouTube videos powered by Blizzard called The Books of Lore. It gives you a full history of the Diablo world. Diablo 4's story, I think, is the pinnacle of storytelling in the Diablo franchise. It is delivered really well, and there is one cutscene in particular that might be the best cutscene I've witnessed in a very long time. ARPGs are not normally known for a good story or campaign, but this time I think the campaign is one of the best things Diablo 4 has going for it. However, saying that, I would still advise everyone to skip it on alternate characters. It just takes way too long to get to the end game by doing the campaign again. Diablo 4 is stunning, and seeing how the genre has changed in the last 20 odd years is truly something to behold. I have been a fan of action RPGs since I started them in 1999. Since then I have sunk a ridiculous amount of hours into them, and Diablo 4's graphics really stand out. However, saying that, Diablo 4 is also the most recent release. Path of Exile 2 will be out soon and is also looking stunning. So right now Diablo 4 is the best looking ARPG, but how long will it keep that title for? Diablo 4 does have an in-game shop, which means there are a lot of cosmetic options available. But with Diablo 4 being an isometric ARPG, you only see your character from above, and I don't think the current cosmetics are flashy enough to stand out for the price they cost. I know it's because they're trying to keep the graphics grounded, but until I see something that wows me, I won't be spending any money on those cosmetics. Combat is a lot slower in Diablo 4 than Diablo 3. It feels a lot more like Diablo 2. The mechanics of combat are actually very different to 3 as well. In Diablo 3, damage was calculated on your position when the enemy attacks, so if it swings an axe at you and you're stood in front of it, it hits you. Diablo 4 has actually good hitboxes, and the axe will only connect with you at the point the axe would connect with your character's body. This means that being quick to move during combat can make fights much easier and a lot more reactive. There are currently 5 classes in Diablo 4, the Barbarian, the Sorcerer, the Druid, the Necromancer and the Rogue. Each one feels a little different in combat, and I found myself struggling to stick to one class at first as I enjoyed them all. It wasn't until I decided to push for the harder achievements that I found my main character, which was the Druid. The combat generally works on a builder-spender formula. You have an ability that builds your class resource, and then an ability that uses that resource to do damage. Some classes differ from this slightly. For instance, my Rogue has 2 spenders. One of the really good parts of the combat were the boss fights. There are a couple of boss fights you do to unlock higher world tiers, and then a final pinnacle boss. These were some of the best fights I have ever done, and I am looking forward to them adding more. The first progression you encounter in Diablo 4 is the leveling system. You can level from 1 to 100. Through the levels of 1 to 50, you will receive a skill point each level that you can spend on your skill tree. This is how you create a build that you want to play by choosing active and passive skills. There is a lot of good options for every class, and Blizzard has recently buffed nearly every underperforming skill. When I first started Diablo 4, I just picked the skills I wanted to use. Throughout the entire campaign, I did not need to follow any guides. It wasn't until I got to the capstone dungeon for Torment difficulty that I had to find a build that worked for that boss. So don't be afraid to just try something for yourself before looking up any builds. There is also a renown system, which I enjoyed the first time I did, but I'm not sure how much fun it will be each season. Blizzard have said that renown from finding the Lilith statues and for uncovering a map will carry over each season, but that still leaves a lot of side quests to do. You need to reach rank 5 renown for each area, as it will give you extra skill points, paragon points and potions, which are all needed in the endgame. The items in Diablo 4 should be pretty familiar to most ARPG fans. You have the standard colours for rarity, white for normal, blue for magic, yellow for rare, and then you have orange for legendary and a purpley pink colour for uniques. Where Diablo 4 differs from a lot of other ARPGs is in its legendary aspect system. This allows you to imprint legendary effects onto different items. These aspects can be obtained by completing certain dungeons, which will give you the aspect permanently, that you can use whenever you want, or you can remove the aspect from an existing legendary and add it to another item. There are some aspects that only come from items in the world, and they normally always have better stat ranges than the ones you get from dungeons. This changes the way items work, because now you can farm for a really good yellow item with the stats you need and then imprint the aspect you need onto it, instead of having to get lucky with the item dropping with the correct legendary effect and the correct stats. Items also have 3 tiers. These are normal items, sacred items which only drop from world tier 3 and 4, and ancestral which only drops from world tier 4. Sacred are normally better than normal, and ancestral are better than sacred. There are also a couple of chase uniques currently in the game, but these have such a low drop chance and no way of target farming them that for 99.9% of the player base you should forget they even exist. I think this is a huge mistake on Blizzard's part and something they should correct in the future. There should always be targetable items you can farm that are rare, but not so rare that people have more chance of being struck by lightning on the way to winning the lottery than getting the items. The endgame of Diablo 4 consists of mainly doing nightmare dungeons and helltide zones. Nightmare dungeons are items you'll get dropped that allow you to turn a normal dungeon into a nightmare version of a certain tier. The higher the tier, the harder the dungeon. Nightmare dungeons are the best way to gain experience in the endgame. Helltides are zones that are being taken over by hell, and you earn a currency called cinders for killing enemies or completing events in these zones. You can then spend this currency on special chests in that zone. This allows you to target farm specific items, as if you need boots, you can use your cinders on the boots chest. There are also currently 4 world tiers. World tier 1 and 2 are meant for early game. Once you're around level 50, you can do the capstone dungeon in world tier 2. Once you complete it, you then get access to world tier 3. World tier 3 has its own capstone dungeon that is level 70. Once you complete that, you get access to world tier 4. Each capstone dungeon has a difficult but very fun boss at the end. As Diablo 4 is a new game, the endgame is lacking somewhat in the content department. This is to be expected though, as other ARPGs or just games in general have the same issues at launch. The endgame Diablo 4 is fun and can only get better as more content is added each season. The achievements are pretty standard for ARPGs. There are only a couple that rarely cause any issue. These are reaching level 100 and killing the final pinnacle boss, which you really need to be over 100 for. This will take a lot of grinding. For reference, I have currently spent just under 200 hours in Diablo 4. Even saying that, I enjoyed going for the achievements in Diablo 4. I would say, however, the Season 1 is coming out on the 20th of July, and I have a feeling the power increase we will receive will make getting to 100 and killing the pinnacle boss a lot easier. So if you're in no rush, wait for Season 1 to get these two. Diablo 4 is a very good ARPG and a great addition to the Diablo franchise. The issue Diablo has, and really any other ARPG that launches now, is that it has to compete with a number of other ARPGs like Path of Exile or Last Epoch, which has had years of content added to their games. Currently, Diablo 4 in its current state is a good game. It does lack in the level 70 to 100 range, as it's very hard to get any meaningful drops, and you're really just grinding the levels for Paragon points. However, in a year's time, Diablo 4 will have 4 seasons under its belt, and I imagine these issues will be ironed out by new content that has been added. I am very excited to try Season 1 and will be doing a review of it after I complete all the available content in a couple of weeks. I would give Diablo 4 a solid 8 out of 10 currently, but I do have faith this score will continue to rise as future content is added. This is a difficult one to add to my tier list. I was going to put it at the top of B tier, however I do think it is on par with Mage Seeker, which is at the bottom of A tier. I think because Mage Seeker was a closed off story and not an open-ended game like Diablo currently, Diablo does have to go at the top of B tier, but after Season 1 I do think it has a chance of going to A tier. I will revisit this tier list when I review the season, but currently Diablo 4 sits at the top of B tier. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the content, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next one.